So Jabber, specifically for combat sports, they're using computer vision to dictate how punches are thrown and landed in combat sports. That computer vision element and how they just track different things, it can really pop off for a lot of sports analysts. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Autonomous Income. I'm your co-host, Deuce Noble.
And I'm your co-host, DJ. What's going on today, Deuce?
Hey man, just another day in paradise, but we got some cool things to talk about. We want to get into what AI has done for the world of sports, right? So, and more specifically, combat sports. And I have found that I don't know if you got a chance recently to watch the Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach Jr. fight a couple weeks ago. Great fight, ended up in a draw, but from that fight, I saw that there was this company called Jabber.ai where they were using AI in their deep strike machine learning or LLM to dictate some of the fight statistics, which I thought was pretty sweet, right? And so we're going to kind of get into Jabber, what they've been doing in the combat sports world, and maybe a few other sports and AI related instances. Do you have anything you want to talk about on the docket, DJ?
Yeah, man. I mean, just talking about just holistically how AI is impacting sports, not just impact sports, but and how it's kind of, not low key, maybe high key. It's already been in the mix for a long time, at least machine learning facets of it. Coaches and players and everybody, they've been using a lot of data and analytics that's been pulled from AI sources. So yeah, we just want to kind of just talk about that all together holistically, how people have been leveraging machine learning, pulling insights from data and using that to better themselves, and also like fan engagement, just a lot of different things. It's just really cool. I'm
No,
excited.
absolutely. I mean, first things first, I gotta admit, let the people know I'm a big boxing fan. I'm a student of the sport. I box myself, so this was actually pretty cool to see. Kind of it brings things full circle. So combining the tech with that sport fandom. I think it's pretty cool. So, let's kind of unpack a little bit with Jabber AI. So Jabber, Jabber AI is a new tech startup that is specifically for combat sports. They're using computer vision and their LLMs to dictate how punches are thrown and landed in combat sports, which is really cool. As you can see, kind of in the screen here, it kind of breaks down. Hey, all right, we have the red corner, the blue corner. This shot was thrown. This shot was missed. This shot was landed. Was up to the head. It was into the body. It's either a hook, a straight. So it's pretty cool dictating, or showing, which punches were landed. And obviously there's a lot of footage they can use for this, right? So the computer vision has a lot of footage to kind of back up and figure out, hey, this is a hook. This is a straight punch. This is your left. This is your right. We're going to dictate whether it was landed or missed. I think this is great for the sport of boxing, right? Because if you, like me, are a fan of boxing and have seen just any big fight, right? A lot of the things that they do to track punches, one of the big ones they use is CompuBox. CompuBox, tracks how many punches were landed, how many punches were thrown, right? But, they're as accurate as you can get, right? And even at the amateur level of boxing, that is more so kind of what the eye can see, the judges can catch and can tell. But this gives you a better sense of security knowing, hey, this shot really was landed because we have the camera set up, right? And it's actually pretty cool just to see those punch statistics, DJ, what do you think about, what this could mean for the future of the sport of boxing?
See, I'm excited, and I think maybe there'll be a mix, because where my mind automatically goes is like where it shows here is like where you can see like judging, because some people say like that Tank Davis fight that you brought up, like some people were upset that it was a draw, right? And like I think this takes maybe subjectivity out of the sport potentially, like like if there's like something that was kind of subjective, if one judge views a fight, like at least adding on maybe some of the AI judge or something like that, like not completely taking over, but then there's no, there's not biased and
You
some
know,
things that could happen. Like, you can't, you're not going to pay an
it's
AI, you know what I mean?
interesting
Like,
that you
so,
say that.
yeah.
It's very interesting that you say that. Just for the simple fact that in boxing, yes, ideally, it would make sense that the person who lands the most punches, would win the fight, right? Who has the most effect. But, boxing is such a beautiful sport that there are times you could be losing. I'll give you just a quick, easy example. Canelo, when he fought, a few people actually, but when he fought Billy Joe Saunders and when he was also fighting Caleb Plant, you could arguably say he was losing that fight, was down on the scorecards, completely getting outboxed, not throwing a lot of punches, getting outlanded. However, we all know how those two fights ended. Billy Joe Saunders broke his orbital eye socket bone, and was knocked out in the fight, and Caleb Plant was knocked out, I think, in one of the later rounds of that fight as well, of that other fight. So I agree with what you're saying as far as it'd be cool to see an AI judge in some capacity, not an official capacity, but
Yeah, I
just
think
to
like just in some,
compare, right?
yeah, maybe like if the fight goes the distance, like say if it's at the end, right, and it's like it goes to the judge's decision, like this is like when I think that would apply. Because of course, if you knock somebody out or whatever, like if something happens where there's an injury and like they can't go on, like that's a little bit easier. But I mean, like if it goes to that is, or if there's a split decision, like something along the lines where I think that they can implement it or at least start getting people, more comfortable with it. Now, the accuracy and all of that, that might take a while for people to kind of just trust, right? Especially with a lot of people, they say the eye test, right? Like if they're looking at a fight and they're watching a fight and they're like, well, I feel that, Tank Davis that he won, right? And everybody's else like, no, I feel like
Well,
such and such won.
I,
Like,
I'll give you that point on the Tank Davis fight, right?
yeah,
So if you watch the Tank Davis and Lamont Roach fight, there was a period, I believe, somewhere in the middle of the fight where Tank took a knee voluntarily. However, right, it caused some controversy. However, let's say if there was an AI judge like Jabber.ai in the mix to see if he really went down from a punch. Granted, there's a replay and a lot of different things, but adding this into the mix could be very, I would say, controversial, but also over time, I think this might be the new wave to determine things, right? Because you got to think, not just boxing, but combat sports in general. Let's say for, MMA, mixed martial arts, there really is a lot that goes into like some of those hits and punches and knowing what gets landed, right? Obviously, being a judge for these sports, you have to be well trained. Does it pass the eye test, right? We paying attention to all these things, but I mean, you can't knock what's coming here in the future, right? I think this is honestly could be a really cool addition, especially if this was added into not only, professional sports, but amateur bouts as well,
yeah. I
because
mean, definitely helping
I've
them like
seen
with
I've
get
seen
them better.
clean
Yeah.
robberies in amateur boxing. And when I tell you
Not
robberies,
robbery,
I
man.
mean not one person was sold, but the judges, like everyone in the crowd was confused. Even the guy who proverbially won the fight was confused that he actually won.
Yeah.
But everyone, they're not going to really show that. But it's one of those things. It's like it's interesting,
Well,
like
I mean, yeah,
especially
that's what I'm saying. It
so
takes out that subjectivity because there's also the human error, right? So, say you're a ref, right, for a fight, Deuce, and maybe you don't see something, you have sweat in your eye, you bouncing around and you don't catch, everything. And like, this won't happen. I mean, like with computer vision, as well as anything, right? I mean, it can be looking at all different angles. It can see, it's going to get to a point where basically this will have like a better view of all the things that happen in the fight and then it can account for it. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's like landed, like you said before, high impact takedowns, how many submission attempts and all of that. And like you have analysts that are kind of doing that. And one thing, we all can get into is like, how do the analysts feel about this? And how does it also compare to the current analysts, like, the data and statistics that they're picking up for it? Or are they already using tools like this? Is this just additional in their tool set? But the whole point is just like, I just think whatever the technology is right now is the worst it's ever going to be, right? It's just going to get better and better.
right.
So, I mean, with that in mind, like, would people trust it? And I want to hear in the comments below, like, would you guys trust something like this to decide a fight versus a human? Because one, dudes, if I pay you, if 2 weeks after the fight, you get 2 million in your account out of somewhere, and not saying that happens, a lot in professional sports. Who knows? Like, not speculating on that, but the whole point is just like, I think with this type of technology, like it'd be cool. One, just for people, like you said, earlier on in their careers to learn, because we'll get into it a little bit later, but other sports have already been using data. Like, on basketball courts, they pick up like where people love to shoot, which hand that they love to use, like where
Of
they're like,
course,
oh yeah, their
absolutely.
spots on the court. And you can tell that, you can see that by watching somebody play over the years. But these analytics, they'll crunch a lot of information and kind of give you layers and layers and layers of data. But for me, I'm excited about this because I really think it'll help. Like, when I was looking at it, and like with the video clip that you showed me, like it was just amazing how real time it was and picking up on those things, and like, especially checking to see how much is landed, because really you just like, how much do people really miss? And this thing seems to be just locked in.
Not only that, right? I think it's really cool that they have some other metrics that they're including, the balance, the stance, and the distance as well for the fighters, right? Because those are all important things when you're throwing punches, when you're landing punches. Let's say, a punch was landed, right? And now you're kind of off balance. It really would show. Like I said, their metrics that they're showing really, really great. As far as I think some of the people that have to worry about that is, like I said, CompuBox. That is the main tracker I've seen of punches being thrown in a fight. CompuBox, they're famous for, keeping track of punches landed and thrown, right? Granted, of course, it's not necessarily always off, but it's pretty accurate for them, right? CompuBox. So I wonder if they're working with any AI for this, but Jabber seems to be well on its way to kind of breaking the norm for these combat sports, right? So, like you mentioned, they're doing and using AI in a lot of different ways for other sports, basketball, NFL, the NFL or well, football in general. But in the NFL specifically, that Amazon has been using their next gen stats in AI for at least the last couple of years just to track a lot of different things of how difficult, certain passes may be for Patrick Mahomes or catches may be for Odell Beckham, right? That's really kind of been where a lot of that stuff is at. But however, seeing how this can work for Jabber is really cool.
Yeah, I think that it'll be really good to just see how it develops over time. Like, I'm super interested in just when it comes to sports, because I'm a big sports fan. And as soon as you send me that clip, I'm like, that's cool. And what I think about is also just the past, right? Like, I'm sure they showed a clip before of just like an old boxing matches. And so me, I'm thinking like, oh man, now maybe they can collect so much data and information they can pull from like analytics and how those fight were, and really do a good simulation of like something that might never happen. Like Ali versus Tyson, or and maybe that's a stretch because like the differences, but I mean, like, they can kind of really put some logic behind, like if they were mock up some of those fights and really put them together and pull data from actual fights to kind of say this is the amount of punches that it would have thrown, or what I mean, like there's just a lot. Like if we had a higher probability to dodge, and they can really use that logic to power like a cool experience to kind of say this is what a really we've collected all this information. This is what this fight would look like, right? A lot of people say people in their prime, like a Jordan versus, and that's not a contact sport. Well, to some people, especially back in the day, it was a contact sport, but Jordan versus a LeBron or something like that, a one-on-one, and like actually using real data versus just like, it's kind of happenstance when you put those things together, like in a video game, like actually using logic behind it. I just think that that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely can change the game as far as, I think so. One of the things that makes this a very interesting use case for boxing. Boxing doesn't have at any level, amateur or professional, they do not have one governing body, right?
Mm.
So being that there's not a governing body over boxing in general, there's a lot of corruption in boxing, a lot of organizations, a lot of people with their hands in the pot. So there's not one. So for example, the NFL and American football, that's the governing body, right? Everything goes to the NFL. There's structures and guidelines, right? Even there's retirement plans for their players, right? The NBA, they have the NBA Players Corps. They have everything. NFL has NFLPA, Players Association. The NBA has their same thing. I mean, all the leagues have some type of protection for their athletes. However, boxing is one of the biggest sports in the world that doesn't have anything. It's such a big sport, and there's no there's no tape, there's no caution tape, nothing keeping everyone in line, right? Granted, you'll have your big promoters, you have your big time networks and everything, but there's no like governing body. You have your four sanctioning bodies that, your big sanctioning bodies that kind of dictate a few things, right? The WBC, WBO, IBO, IBF, as far as, titles and belts and everything. But this really could help bring some normalcy and take out some objectiveness to boxing. However, I'm not saying change the sport up. Obviously, boxing's been around for a really, really long time. The way it's been judged and everything, but this
But
could
jump
help.
us with some innovation in there every now and then. I mean, because every sport
Right,
has been there.
absolutely.
Like you see, like NFL sidelines where the coaches had those Microsoft tablets for a while, because I think Microsoft was one of the one people who,
Microsoft Surface tablets, yeah.
yeah, they had Surface tablets, and they were kind of using that, and I think just plays, but also like run, whatever they were doing with that. But I mean, you just see this innovation, like even the drones that they use on the field and all this other stuff. So each one of the sports, like all sports, right, you're getting a lot of where this can kind of help out and improve and like give you a competitive edge. That was the other thing you were talking about, because the quarterback from your Commanders, he was using a VR right headset, or he's been using that since college,
That's
right?
right.
So
So yeah, Jaden Daniels has been using VR
yeah,
to help assist in his training,
yes.
right? And don't quote
Look
me
how
exactly,
far he went in this season. I mean, you know what I'm
but
saying?
right. So
As a
he
freshman.
said he's been using that a lot at LSU. So he wake up to get extra reps essentially. And more of a kind of they make it more of a mixed reality type of thing, whatever, but
Yeah.
he uses a headset to get extra real virtually real reps,
Yeah.
right? To
That's
simulate,
wild. I mean, it's pretty cool
the
because I mean, like
moves, right?
his freshman year, I mean, he went all the way. I mean, like I think one more game, he would have been the first NFL player ever in their rookie season to start a Super Bowl, right? Like the first rookie ever.
Right. I mean, he made it
And
to
he
the
was on the cusp,
championship in
and it
his rookie
wasn't him
year.
who not to spread the, not to like, it was, basically he made it really far. The team did really well. There were some sports analysts saying that it really wasn't him that did bad, in that last game or whatever. Like it was kind of like the team didn't show up or whatever the
Right.
case is. But the cool part it is it's like there might be something to that. He may start a trend, and I'm not sure if other, college kids or whatever, if they're using VR right now, like, or even people in his cohort, right? But like it just seems like he went really far. He wasn't really
I
under
think
pressure a lot.
it does hold a very
Yeah.
good place in his development because if you think about all of the non-contact reps that he's taking right now, I mean, yes, it's mentally allowing him to see things a lot differently, real time, right? Right. It's allowing him to develop in a certain pace that you want to recreate, right? Because you got to look at his rookie year. Obviously, he won the Rookie of the Year this year, and he broke or set a lot of records for the Washington Commanders, but also for the NFL in general. And I know those statistics can be very, odd, right? Oh, the first quarterback to have, 7 games with, two touchdowns and, 100 rushing yards, or whatever. Like very odd, but still, at the same time, if you look at what he's done on the NFL field in just one year with a, great head coach, great offense coordinator, and just to have them come back this year or next year rather, the same team, same, leadership, I think he's going to, really propel himself as being a pretty solid quarterback for the future. I'm not going to dub anything on him being one of the greats yet. Like,
Now
I'm
you
gonna let
said
the
it.
boy
You said
develop.
you've already committed to it, man. Go ahead. Yeah, you've already
Nah,
said
man, I
yeah,
think he's going to have a solid future. Like, I just want him to play and, do well. Like, come back and do, but like you said, a lot of that training goes into the innovation that's been there, but that technology that he's been able to use, right? It's been really cool seeing how that really has transpired. And honestly, look, if we're being honest, like I feel like companies like Apple with their Apple Vision Pro missed some opportunities to kind of market this a little bit better, or get a chance to jump on some marketing for this, right?
yeah. I mean, and I think a
What that
lot of
looks
the
like.
use cases are still, being put together. Like, and this is VR. I think, I'm not sure if he's using AR also, which I think the Apple Vision Pro, of course, is like mixed reality where it's both and all that. But I think you're right. Like, yeah, I mean, they could definitely lean into this, and maybe it's not too late. I mean, because they already have the end with Nike. Apple and Nike's relationship
Oh
is
yeah.
good, so they have the
I'm just saying there's probably there may have been talks about it, but just think about it. Like, you have players coming out saying, "Hey, I use this technology for this. Hey, if I'm a technology company, I'm going to go in and like, hey, let's ride
yeah,
this wave."
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because this could be
Ride
like
that
the next
wave.
group of athletes that are buying this, for that reason. And just like I was saying before, that we had up with the article from Fortune is just like, a lot of people that are getting into sports now, they can use a lot of this information and data that they can pull now. It's more accessible to them, so that way they can get better. Like me as a kid, I go back and say, if I was using my left hand too much or right hand, or if you're shooting at a different way, if it's basketball, or even with MMA, like, if you're more prone to do this, or if like any type of data and insights that you can get. And that's the whole point of having a coach. But now it kind of sets you up for success, like with yourself. You can record yourself, or you can get footage of somebody recording you, and that can analyze and like,
Man, that's a perfect point because I was just thinking about not only is Jabber going to be good for, monitoring and, judging fights, right, and tracking punches, but it's good for those developmental tools as well, right?
yeah, man,
Because
yeah,
you got to think,
it's a
I
good habit.
even myself when I go spar, I'm recording and I go back and watch it, but getting to see those analytics
It
and
records
statistics
those insights
on
for
that,
you. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Man, that'd be perfect. Yeah,
That's what I'm
I'm gonna join
saying.
this
Yeah,
wait
like I mean,
list.
like they said,
Let me get on
upload
this
your
wait list.
yeah. Jabber put on the page about uploading your footage, which is cool because like parents record their kids. I record my kids all the time, right? And I'm telling them like from what I see, their coaches tell them, you're an athlete, Deuce. You play football. I play football. They had us in there watching tape, and coaches like, and this right here is where this is where you messed up, and this is where that you should have did went through this gap or whatever the case is, and like so I think all of that you'll get that, and it'll be more accessible to you, and you can kind of just really distill it, and maybe it'll talk like with LLMs, you can like query your data, right? Like, what did I do wrong? Where do I need to get better? And it'll kind of talk to you like you need to get the information versus like an angry old coach or something like that. That just you're not really connecting with the way that he's giving it to you. So just self improvement, like seems like Jaden Daniels is doing with his VR. Like apparently it was reported, as you can see here, that he made that a condition for any team drafting him. That that had to be a part of his training. So
Right.
that is super dope, right? Like. So I'm really excited about that. And like for me, honestly, I'm just like, man, maybe I need to, get my kids hooked up with some. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, like, I mean, obviously that's an expense, right? But when you think about
Yeah. The
things
return on
like
that
that,
investment though.
like the training though,
Yeah.
the insights that you get, you're going to really propel yourself into just propel yourself into just a whole nother plane because you're going to get a lot more and faster development by seeing your insights. And if you're into like breaking down that type of data, right, you can get better once you know, hey, this precisely when I do this, right, when I throw this punch, right, it'll land a lot better, right, which I think is cool, especially if you think about like you said, watching tape, right. Now, if we're getting to upload videos, man, now the wheels are
I
turning.
see you looking up into the left. Yeah, you
Right,
start
but
doing that.
you think about this now. Look, okay, cool. I got a fight coming up. Now I need to watch some tape on my opponent. I'm gonna
Yes.
put it into
And
Jabber real
then
quick,
have it
and
come
I'm about
back
to
and
see
say
what they tell
exactly.
me.
Yeah. And also, look, I'll do you one better, right? I mean, like now you have VR. You like a lot of this, in the tech stack, right? I mean, like you can. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can put something up that has you fight a version virtually, like with VR, right? Like you can have like because you have those I forget which one of the VR headsets that has the handles, that let you punch, and then each one of the hands. A lot of them have different stuff, but either way. But now you can basically load up, somebody else, right? Like that would be really a cool feature to have. Is just like, hey, this is how that person. You have all the data from their last maybe 5 fights, maybe not some old stuff, but like last 5 fights. Load that up, and then see how you spar
you
against
know,
that, and then you could train.
didn't they do that? Didn't they do that in one of the? I think it was Rocky Balboa, one of the Rocky
Oh, it might
movies.
have been.
They basically they created it was a virtual simulation of a dream matchup. It was like the current champ versus Rocky
Oh, was
Balboa
it one of
and
the
how
Creed
he would beat
ones?
it.
Was it one of the
No,
Michael
no,
B.
no.
Jordan ones?
It was this
Rocky?
one was like it was it was it was before the Creed, but it was like Rocky. This one was called Rocky Balboa. This movie,
Oh, so
terrible.
after.
It was a terrible one, but it was after Rocky Five. But it was
uh,
Rocky Balboa. I can't remember
so
there was an
technically
actual
Rocky
boxer
Six
in
or
it.
something like that. Okay.
Yeah, but they basically made a dream matchup. It was like, oh, this will happen, and so basically
Yeah,
they were doing a dream matchup, and obviously they ended up making the fight happen for real. After Rocky was really, really old anyway, but
he still won though. I'm sure. I'm sure he still.
I think
Or he
so.
won the
I think
distance.
so, of
Who
course.
knows?
But like you said, you can kind of see these dream matchups if you load up enough stats about somebody,
That's what I was saying
right? You can
before. Is like you can
simulate.
really do simulation
Hey,
based off
bro, we
actual
own
data.
one now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Look, we get all the kids in the gym. This is how we train
This
it
is
from
how
now
we do it.
on.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
get it in shape, and then we're going to do this. And this is your mental training,
Man.
stimulation.
I mean, imagine if coach, like if there's a team that's out there that's doing that and adding this into their training, and imagine if they, win a championship, or if they, if they win something that actually proves that this is helping. I mean, if you look at Jaden Daniels as a use case, like if you look at as how far as he went for his rookie year, pretty unprecedented, right? I mean, it's not normal for somebody to go that far and be one game away from the Super Bowl, which is crazy for a rookie. So, and not saying that that's the only thing. I mean, like he's gifted and all this other stuff, but it could be his training regimen. But this is definitely something new, innovative, emerging technology space. So I'm definitely going to keep tabs on all the things in this space. It's pretty cool.
No, absolutely. I think that in general, I think that this is a great use case for this technology.
Yep.
A lot of new LLMs that are popping up, just AI in general,
Yep.
getting insights into sports and basically how people move, right? We've been using all types of tracking data for movement in our bodies
Maybe
for
it'll
a long
help
time,
people
but
dance.
adding, huh?
Yeah, maybe it'll help people dance. Like it's like
Hey,
do
listen,
that something like
you
all
never
things,
know.
right? Yeah.
But adding computer vision to sports movements and getting those insights is a really, really rich path to be on, right? I think that, companies that kind of dabble there, you got to think some of these sports that this could affect I mean, not just some of these sports, every sport, tennis, golf, right? Because you got to think with golf, you're going to have to add in, a lot of weather stipulations, right?
Yeah.
There's different things that you're
And
going to,
they they kind of they use some of that. I know, like you're the main one saying like it's already been used, like in certain facets, right? In golf, like
right.
the distance of the ball, like I know they have
Of
tracking, but
course,
they
like
have
they
like a
have all
lot of
types of
analytics.
different
Yeah,
things, but now, but now the thing is, you're adding in that computer vision element, and then some of the LLMs that can go with that, and how they just track different things. It can really pop off for a lot of sports analysts. One for the sports analysts, but also for the athletes themselves
yeah.
and the training and their
And let,
training
let
regimens. I mean,
alone, as we've been talking about, and we're a big proponent of is AI agents, right? If you have these agents that have all of your data, right, and you have like, all of your individualized data, that agent can kind of also help you like, hey, this is what I'm noticing from your last fight that I've ingested, right? Like if you're pumping in your data into your, your agentic framework basically, and like, or into your agent and knowledge base, and then, that's pulling and it's just like, hey, this is, something to focus on here and there. Like, you just get into places where like it'll make it a lot easier and easier for you to get real good information about yourself or opponents or whatever the case is, and like help you make solid decisions on it. I don't know, I'm stoked. i
no,
think i think it's really cool.
absolutely. No, absolutely. I think it's really interesting to see. And for those of you listening and watching, like, what are some of the use cases you would like to see in sports, or that you think that this could
Yeah.
really take off in? Because I think, personally, I like it. I think it's a welcome place in sports, and especially Jabber AI is a welcome place in combat sports, in my opinion. I think they should absolutely take advantage of it. I hope they blow up. I hope this video takes them over. Look, someone at Jabber, come take a look at this. Y'all come to my
Yeah.
y'all come to my next fight.
Yeah, I'm about to say, yeah, dudes, put up one of your fights on there. I mean, it says something about uploading it. Go on to upload a Jabber
Hey,
and see,
listen, I might have to.
yeah, see what it
Look,
says
I
about
got a
yours.
couple on YouTube.
I don't know if mine was ever captured, me getting drug right
Yeah.
through yet.
Hey, listen, I got a couple belts for y'all. I'll show y'all.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, that's cool.
But yeah,
Yeah,
as always, man, we're just trying to, bring different, fresh, and new, innovative things to you guys. Like I said, this was something that kind of hit home for us. Like, I think it's really cool. And of course, their AI, their computer vision is called Deep Strike. Genius marketing, right, with that. But yeah, as always, guys, leave some comments, like, comment, subscribe, and share. On, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
for sure. Talk to y'all. Peace.